Hello, I'm Les Miller. I'm just getting ready for church here and decided to make a short, quick video before I go to talk about something that happened last weekend. I was turning on YouTube in the morning as I was getting ready and noticed that one of the big churches with the, how to say it? Well, the big name speakers of my particular denomination putting on a creation evolution seminar was all Friday night, 2 meetings, and then, I don't know, 5 or 6, I didn't count, meetings all day Sabbath. I've watched already, I think about 5 of them, maybe 6, and again, gotten a lot out of them, enjoyed them in many ways, and not against them as an individual church or an individual group, but I just find the overall approach and premise Christians have toward the creation evolution debate, to me, is just inadequate. As much as we can turn around and find all kinds of scientific reasons to show how inconsistent and strange evolution really is, by coming at the situation by saying basically here's what's wrong with them, that doesn't really prove God. That, in fact, I remember years ago talking to some friends who, in their minds, they live in the modern world. David was one, Don was another. Don himself told me literally, pretty much word for word, it's not that he wasn't that closed to Christianity and spiritual things, but he just found it distasteful in general with the approach we take. And to me, when we're doing this, then we're really giving away a kind of insecurity, as if deep down the challenge evolution has given has really shaken us. Myself, that never happened. I was in grade 8 in junior high school here in Canada and taking science class, learning about geology, learning things about the age of the earth, and then of course reading Reader's Digest books and magazines and TV shows about science, and of course all kinds of drama and fiction about the dark ages in movies and TV shows, and just coming up with this overall idea that most people believe today, that we live in this modern enlightened world and that every other point of history was backward and full of superstition. About the same time, I'm in grade 8 science class. My local church gave me a Good News Bible, very similar to this one, that I read cover to cover over the course of about 6-7 years, just a page at a time. And it was after that I had the Bible studies I had to become a Seventh-day Adventist and to be in love with Jesus like I am today. But when I came across the second commandment, I'm going to find it here in Exodus 20. Hopefully Milo won't destroy something in the background. Milo, stop. Exodus 20, verse 4. Do not make for yourselves images of anything in heaven or on earth or in the water under the earth. The rest of the second commandment, of course, dealing with the concept of idolatry. We're not supposed to worship statues and make a human representation of God. I didn't fully understand spiritual things at the time that I came across this verse. And so when I saw this, don't make an image of what's under the ocean, I wasn't so focused on the statue, but I was focused on what the statue was supposed to be of. And in my mind, I just pondered for a moment. Does God not want us to know anything about this planet? Is it wrong for us to dive down underwater and see what's down there? Is it wrong for us to go up into the sky as high as the moon and see what's up there, out there? I wanted to be a good Christian. Later on, when I came across the Sermon on the Mount and the things Jesus said about adultery starting in the heart, about anger starting in being the beginning of the road toward murder. And I knew the truth of it all. I knew the value of kindness and love, but yet I was in this dichotomy. The modern world says it's all superstition. Well, what would I do? A lot of people feel this way too. Many, many years ago, before National Geographic had their own TV channel, they would just make specials and put them on regular network TV. I remember watching one 20, 25 years ago, something like that. They're doing one on the creation evolution debate. They find enough information for 5 minutes on creation. And they end that portion with a Christian pastor actually saying, if the Bible said 2 plus 2 equals 5, I'd believe it. Why would the Bible say 2 plus 2 equals 5? If this is a book of truth, then why wouldn't there be support for intellectual truth, not just spiritual truth? The Bible would not say 2 plus 2 equals 5. But this is the problem. There's deep down this underlying doubt in so many people's hearts and minds who claim to believe in God. Their faith is just not big enough, pure enough. Going back to my two friends, David and Dawn, speaking of faith. After a few conversations with David about spiritual things, he finally gave me his number one reason why he just could not accept the Bible as God's truth. His words were, "You give me a scientific explanation for how 6 miles of water could come up over the earth and then go back down and disappear, and I will believe." Well, it was a challenge to me at the time. Like so many people being hit with all this science, feel challenged in the creation evolution debate. It took me years to come up with a possible explanation. Literally years. By then, David was out of my life. I wasn't in touch with him anymore. My answer was, without any real scientific proof, in the sense of formulas and evidence and things, most of the water from the flood is probably still with us. We have no idea what the earth looked like before the flood. Because the rain didn't just come down from the top. You look at the Bible verses, and the earth itself opened up, and water that was inside the earth came up, out. And so maybe, just maybe, all the water caused depressions in the earth to make the ocean as deep as it is. And maybe that pressure is what's holding the mountains up. Mount Everest was not 6 miles high before the flood. This is the kind of thing we see people attempting to do in what they call creation science. And again, I'll get back to my basic statement at the first. I do think this whole approach to the creation evolution debate is inadequate. I had quite the exchange with this particular church and these people with the independent ministry that is based there over the last few days, where I was trying to say what we really need to do is spiritual proof. I compared it to the story of David and Goliath. How basically when we come at scientific people with science proving that their science is wrong, we're like David when he tried to fight in Saul's armor. But David came and he defeated Goliath with a stone. Jesus is the rock, symbolically, so many times, so many ways. And where did the stone get hurled? To Goliath, right here. This is the part of the brain where we make choices, especially choices about right and wrong behavior. So presenting Christ to people and giving them a chance to make a choice, that I think is the way to work on and finish the creation evolution debate, at least from our side, to give us the amount of security we need. People who don't want to believe in God, that's the option. God respecting their free choice, that's the option God allowed Satan to offer them. And when people try to make attempts to blend creation and evolution, you always end up seeing evolution coming out on top. To say that, oh, Genesis 1 is symbolic of longer time periods, or several other different things, they call it theistic evolution. Myself, when I was in grade 8, grade 9, grade 10, I had some doubt. I had some faith. on both sides. I wasn't sure how to reconcile it. So I came up with the idea that not just me alone, but that maybe, just maybe, Adam was the first caveman who suddenly became a human, that evolutionary step, and that there's some sort of legend version of the story in Genesis 2, 1, 2, and 3. I actually had a cousin one time say to me, Genesis 1 is poetry, not history. That was his way to blend. But again, always blending, always ending up creation being somehow subservient to evolution. Well, I just don't believe that. Colossians 1:17. This Bible verse was in a pamphlet that a friend of mine shared with me when I was in grade 8. We had learned about atoms, about how inside the nucleus of an atom, the protons should repel each other magnetically, but they don't because they're held together by nuclear forces. And in Colossians 1:17, Christ existed before all things, and in union with him all things have their proper place. I usually read New King James Bible. It says there, in him all things consist. But I'm sure if you look around multiple translations, you'll probably find a translation somewhere that says, in him all things hold together. Because that's what was in this pamphlet, saying that the power of Christ, the will of God, is in those nuclear forces, and that every atom holds together because of it. For my personal journey in pondering the second commandment, as I did, it was a lot of things I was going through at the time, and I realize now, looking back, what it really was that I was afraid to grow up, which is a totally different part of my spiritual journey that I really haven't gotten much into. And I probably won't, but I will read 1 Corinthians 13, 11 and 12. When I was a child, my speech, feelings, and thinking were all those of a child. Now that I am a man, I have no more use for childish ways. What we see now is like a dim image in a mirror. Then we shall see face to face. What I know now is only partial. Then it will be complete as God's knowledge of me. So yes, we will have a chance to have knowledge. We do have a chance to have knowledge. And we have a chance to have knowledge in this life as well. That's a promise for heaven. A full and complete knowledge of everything in spiritual things, who God is, by also understanding who we really are and the contrast. But there is nothing wrong with going under the water, going up in the air, if you take God with you when you go. Evolution doesn't want to take God, so evolution looks for evidence God's not there, and what do you know? Evolution finds it. Deuteronomy 29:29. There are some things that the Lord our God has kept secret, but he has revealed his law, and we and our descendants are to obey it forever. I think there's better translations of this version of this verse. But the point of learning about the natural world, what he does reveal, is to understand him better. If we want to, we can find him there. But there are some things, no. He'll never tell us how he can cause matter to come into existence simply by speaking. And if science is going to try and find that out, science is going to be wasting its time. After only 2 pamphlets as a kid, from grade 8 through to grade 12, one by my friend, one by my grandfather, not a major, huge, detailed scientific challenge of evolution, enough to plant doubt in my heart. I became a creationist not because of those pamphlets, but because of the spiritual proof in the Bible that God gave me. One of those spiritual proofs, Micah 7:19. You will be merciful to us once again. You will trample our sins underfoot and send them to the bottom of the sea. To remove our guilt so far from us. And when I was 20, the stupid things I did, how defiled I felt within my mind and my heart. I just know his ability to forgive me is so perfect, so pure, so complete. The value of the cross, the restoration to innocence that he can give you is just so much more than anything I could ever find in a textbook, in a science class. Luke 4:16, the other proof of creation. Then Jesus went to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and on the Sabbath he went as usual to the synagogue. He stood up to read the scriptures. The seventh day Sabbath, instituted in Genesis 1 and 2, at the end of the creation week, is God's true Sabbath, the revelation of himself on his true Sabbath. If you keep the Sabbath rather than Sunday, understanding the forgiveness he's given you, no amount of scientific proof will ever challenge you again. That's all the proof I need. That Jesus worked in my life to forgive me of my sins. That a connection with him on the true Sabbath, which I'm about to do as I go to church. That's all the proof I need. And I'm 100% secure as a creationist. It's possible to be a creationist and live in the modern world. I'm going to put a link on the end screen to a playlist of videos that this video will be on. That's all about my take on the creation-evolution debate. Not one word of scientific proof will be given. All spiritual proof. A whole bunch of videos. I ask you to watch them. And may God be with you. Thank you for listening.